I'll be your host today. I'm Trick Jarrett. And we've got an amazing show lined up for you. I mean, aside from Blake being sick, I definitely didn't cause him to be sick, but I'm so thankful for the opportunity to speak to three of Magic's amazing artists who help make this game as beautiful as it is, and whose art is pretty good as well. Before we bring them on, though, I have a couple of quick bits of news that we want to go over. Important details that you may have missed, probably not, but we just want to cover the bases. First it is Murders at Karlov Manor release week. It'll be available in stores. If you didn't get to go to the pre-release this past weekend, this Friday, you can visit your favorite local game store or big box store and pick up play boosters as well as, commander decks, any other packs that you're excited for, collector packs from Murders at Karlov Manor. And of course, today, if you're able to, you'll be able to play on Arena, play Murders at Karlov Manor. Secondly, also importantly, the Winter Super Drop is going on for Secret Lair. It is running until March 3rd or until supplies last, depending on the quantities available for drops. So be sure to go check it out. Look at the awesome variations and new types of cards available to you. And if something catches your eye, pick up your copy. You have until March 3rd or while supplies last. This episode is, of course, focused on three amazing Magic artists, all three of whom will be at MagicCon Chicago coming up in just a couple of weeks. It'll be running February 23rd through 25th, and it's taking place at the McCormick Place in Chicago. And they'll be part of the Art of Magic at the show, one of the mainstays of MagicCons. And of course, there's a lot more going on there. There'll be Pro Tour Murders at Karlov Manor, which will be Pioneer constructed in MKM Limited, streaming here on this Twitch channel. There will also be a $75K Standard Open with $15,000 going to the first place finisher, as well as all of the other things we know and love. A cosplay contest, a preview panel, a second preview panel for Magic's Fallout release, and of course, Game Nights Live. We're even featuring a brand new thing with Chicago. We're trying out a family track to give more activities for those with younger attendees at the show. There's so much more going on, but let's go ahead and bring our three artists on and talk about Magic art and the art of Magic at MC Chicago. Please welcome Alayna Lemmer-Danner, Leon Tukker, and Magali Villeneuve as guests on the show today. How are you all doing today?
Good,
Great.
thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, obviously, you all have contributed over the years to many Magic cards and are continuing to bring us amazing pieces of art. Leon, this is going to be your first MagicCon, though. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I am very excited, to say the least. I was also, I was pretty surprised when I got the email when they asked me to be a part of the show. So, I've been working with Wizards for 3 years now, and first MagicCon. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. That's awesome. Magali, you've obviously been to a number of Magic shows. You went to Barcelona last year, and you'll be at all of them. All three of you will be at all of them this year. But Chicago, is this going to be your first time coming to Chicago?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, it's been a few years since the last time I could come to the US. So I'm really excited to be coming back this year.
That's awesome, awesome. Alayna, you're, of course, going to be in Chicago, and it's in the neck of the woods that you grew up in, right? You're not from Illinois, but you're from the Midwest.
Yeah, I'm from Madison, Wisconsin originally. So we're basically going to land in Milwaukee, hit up my husband's parents and my mom, and then drive down to Chicago. And then afterwards, we're going to go back to Wisconsin, have some cheese afterwards, and frozen custard, as you do.
As you do. You can't not, as I understand it. That leads to a good conversation to start us off, though, is, a lot of attendees come to these shows. They see you all at the tables at the Art of Magic or whatever Magic event they might be going to, but they don't really have a good idea of the work that goes into preparing for these events. So actually, let's start with you, Alayna, and talk about, have you started preparing for Chicago? Is that what you're going to start doing today? Or is that the day before you just pick up what you can and head out the door? What's that like?
Oh my gosh, it's a lot. I prep for really like months. I do a bunch of shows throughout the year, and thankfully, my mom is awesome, and I have a lot of stuff that I actually leave at her house because, I live in Seattle, which is like the corner of the country, whereas she's in Wisconsin, which is pretty central. And so I also do Gen Con and any other Midwest show. I can basically ship things to her and then rent a car and drive everything over. For Chicago specifically, I've already started shipping play mats and I'm having canvases made. Those are done. I've had pieces like framed already. So I have a bunch of stuff left, but I'm probably about 3/4 of the way prepped now. So
Now, Magali, obviously you and Leon aren't from the U.S., and it's a little bit further of a trek for you all to join us. How does your preparation for Chicago look compared to Alayna's?
Well, it's a bit different because, as you said, coming from Europe, you have to plan things differently. Whenever I'm doing an event in Europe, it's easier because I can drive there, and then there is no limit to the stuff I can bring. This time around, I tried to prepare, to have some playmats printed for the events. And I worked with Ultra Pro to have them shipped directly, so I don't have to receive them myself and then bring the very heavy stuff with me.
Right.
I'm also hoping that I'm hoping I can have more stuff sent directly to the event, some prints, postcards, things like that. But I'm also prepared to the fact that maybe things won't go as I plan. So what I'm trying to do as a preparation to the event is to prepare some artist proofs, so people can have some artist proofs to buy there, which is something pretty hard to get by as far as I'm concerned, because I never have enough time to work on them. But I want players to be happy and to be able to get some. But most of all, I'm going to concentrate a lot on signatures because, as I said earlier, it's been a while since the last time I came to the US, and I already received messages from players who are asking, is there a limit to the amount of stuff we can bring for signature? And also my main goal is to have as many people to be able to, to reach the table to have their stuff signed, and all the rest, will be secondary as far as I'm concerned.
Right. That makes perfect sense. Leon, given that, as we said, this will be your first one, are you taking notes? Any questions on the preparation for the show? How's it going for you?
Well, absolutely. I've been taking notes. So yeah, since this is my first event, I had to figure out everything basically from the start. So from what quality of print is what's the best quality to bring with you? What's the type of paper that you should use? How much should it all cost? So I had to figure everything out. Fortunately, Alayna was of tremendous help because she wrote a little guide a while ago, preparing artists like me who are new to events like this to prepare for the event. So I will be bringing a bunch of prints with me, basically, as much as I can carry. Or as much as they'll allow me to take with me through the border.
Right.
And apart from that, I'll be taking some artist proofs with me. What else? Yeah, there's signatures. Like what Magali said, like I wasn't even concerned about. I mean, I don't know. Are there lines at an event like that? I'm not even
Yes.
sure. So for me, I'm going in blind, and luckily I'll bring a dear friend who will be helping me out. So yeah, that's gonna be a great deal of fun.
Yeah.
But in terms of what I will bring, it's mostly artist proofs and a bunch of prints, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple of things. But yeah, I'll think of it during the stream. And there's of course a whole bunch of markers that I can bring with me to potentially draw something or do some autographs.
That's awesome. There are queue lines just for you and for fans. The showrunners do set up basically lines on the floor to help manage and organize the process. But yeah, it's going to be a good time, and I know fans are excited to see all three of you, as well as the, I believe, 20. I don't remember the exact number of artists confirmed from Chicago. I believe it's 22, but I could be wrong. And I, I think it was Magali, you mentioned the playmat weights, or maybe it was Alayna, but it always cracks me up. Magic fans eventually learn playmats weigh a lot, like the collections that we grow over the collection. But you all, as artists, vendors, having to bring those playmats, having Ultra Pro ship them or whatever else, it's one of those things that I think is easily overlooked by fans as one of the logistics that goes into making this show happen, both as us for running the show and also for you all as artists there with tables. Leon, you mentioned bringing a friend, and that's one of the other things I wanted to discuss is that, I'm curious to hear from Alayna and Magali with their experience. What does a normal day at a MagicCon look like for you all? I mean, you get up, you eat breakfast, you go straight to the table. What's the process? When do you take breaks? How does that work?
I'll jump in here. This is something I think artists need to do a better job with, especially like with Vegas. Our day starts, I believe, at 9 a.m. is when you should be at your table, because there's the Black Lotus VIP and they get in an hour early. And when I showed up to my table in Vegas, I'd get there at 8:30 and I already had a line. I don't know how it happened, but there was already a line. And basically, I was there each day. I took about a 15-minute break, and the show doesn't end till like 7. So I was there from like 8:30 till 7 o'clock at night with like a 15-minute break. And that's something I need to do better at next time, is to actually take a break. And it's hard when there's a line there. You feel really guilty walking away, if somebody's been waiting there an hour. But just, you guys should do that. Definitely do better, set a watch or something, like a clock, and just be like, okay, from 1 to 2, I need to be out of here and go eat something and drink some water.
And also go see the show. There's so much stuff, as I said, going on. Giving yourselves the opportunity to go see other artists or go see other events going on at the MagicCon. It's definitely a challenge. I mean, I think that's a human existence challenge of, when there are expectations and people waiting for you. It's hard to let yourself take those breaks, but it is important. Magali, does your day for MagicCon Barcelona or other Magic events look different? How does that go for you?
Well, it's pretty much the same as what Alayna described. It's nonstop signatures, and also like many other of my, co-workers, artists, I really like to, it's a really great opportunity to talk with players, because, we are always working in the shadows and we don't have that many occasions to have interactions with the actual humans we are doing all that work for. Right. So I gotta, I am guilty. I sometimes take, quite a while with players who are really willing to talk and all. It's always such a blast, to be able to share, their love for Magic and all. So yeah, my lines are pretty long, so I stay for as long as I can, actually, with really limited breaks. And happily, I have my assistant with me, who is a cosplayer. She is Manju. I think some players already know her. And because she's helping me, sometimes, reminding me, please drink, please eat something. So she is really helpful for that. And but in general, I gotta say, though, I am, Alayna is right. We should do better. But for me, I'm always going to these events with, one idea in mind, is just to make players happy. So, little breaks and all, but I will have more time to rest when I get back home.
Yeah, that's fair. Absolutely. And it's admirable that you all are so dedicated to making the fans' events special. But I know I speak for the fans when we say we also want you to take care of yourself and give yourselves those breaks, give yourself that ability.
But I got to say that excuse me, but the logistics at my first MagicCon was Barcelona, as you mentioned, and I was really impressed by the logistics for artists, because some things are prepared that don't exist in any other events I've ever been to, like, people helping us closing the lines, right, and explaining players that, when this line is over, she's going to take a break and all. You just can't imagine how helpful this is. It's just life-saving. So thank you, the organizers, for that.
Awesome. I will pass that
Isn't
on.
it amazing?
Yeah.
It's so nice. Yeah, MagicCon is not like anything else. Like nothing like how GPs and stuff used to be. It's so nice,
Yeah, yeah.
all the work they put into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that the events team here put a lot of effort into is how do we make these the best events that we can, and it's a thing that every single show they're looking for how can we improve, how can we make things better. Magali, you brought up a thing that I think is also very important, which is the chance for you to interact with other artists. You know, often you all are working from home or maybe in office, but it's still a lonely endeavor in a lot of ways. Do you all have dinners? Do you have get-togethers after hours? How does that go?
Yeah, you know, when we have the occasion and the time, it's always, a great moment to meet, friends again, because the only moments when we meet each other, especially for us European artists, the only moment when we can meet again with artist friends is events. So sometimes I'm trying, to contact them beforehand and will you have time for lunch or dinner or to have a drink or something like that? Because it's also fun. It's also, comfort moments because we can exchange our experiences and we
Right.
can, I mean, I learned so much about events from other artists. So they helped me also grow up as a magic artist, So it's always also for that great moments ahead.
Great. And I agree. Like it's a special moment for Magic fans. It's a chance to get together with fans from other locations or people they might know online, meet creators and artists. It's a special moment for us at Wizards because we see a lot of us in the office, but also more increasingly people are remote or we have coworkers who work elsewhere. Meeting with you all, meeting with other people in the community. So, I mean, we have started saying that the MagicCons put the gathering in Magic the Gathering, and that's an important thing I've heard them say multiple times as sort of their mindset coming together for these events. I want to make two quick notes. First off, if you're a watcher and you have questions for the artists, please feel free to put things in chat. I am keeping an eye on it. I've got stuff prepared. I'm happy to continue to drive, but I do want to offer, if people have questions, do put them into chat and tag the Magic account. And then I wanted to slightly transition because, Leon, we talked about, you've been working on Magic for a couple of years, but it hasn't entirely been as a card artist. You actually started out doing concept art, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And I'm that still is most of the work that I do for Wizards is actually concept artwork. I started in the end of 2021 working for Zach Stella on a very small commission for Neon Kamigawa. And I was super lucky that they just kept me coming back. And I have been working, ever since, basically. I think Wizards has been one of my only clients that I've been working with over the past 3 years. And for me, it has been great because the difference between concept art and the card art is that the concept art has to be turned around very quickly. You, more often than not, have to make 3 or 4 images in a day. This is something that I really love to do. I usually have a hard time really putting a good finish to a card, for example. So being able to put out concepts very quickly is something that I really love to do. It also has to do with my short attention span. So having a deadline at the end of the day really, really helps me.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine.
Yeah.
In your mental approach to those pieces of art, aside from the time frame difference that you already highlighted, is there a mental approach? Like obviously for the larger card pieces, you're getting a more formal description of what's expected for it. For the concept pushes, is it more like, hey, do something in this space and just play with it? Or how do these differ for you?
So usually the art directors are very well prepared when it comes to concept art. So, as a concept artist, you have basically the world guide doesn't exist yet, right? There's a vague idea of what we want to do with a set, but there's no imagery for it yet. So there's just reference images and text and whatever the designers came up with. But the descriptions are usually very, very well done, and it's very imaginative. And then we usually sit together with a bunch of artists and try and come up with new things. And then as we go along, the world guide starts taking shape. So usually the first weeks or the first week of a concept process like that, we can do whatever we want. Everything is great and there's no wrongs. And then as we go along, we try to really home in on the on the nitty gritty, on the details, and in the end, that turns into into a final world guide that the card artists then use as inspiration and as reference for their cards.
Yeah, exactly. I had a really interesting conversation with Ovidio Cartagena, who's one of the art directors for Lost
Yes.
Caverns of Ixalan, and we talked about, because he had actually done a image of the Ixalan globe, and we talked about how that image, and we did a short video for our Instagram and TikTok accounts talking about how that world guide graphic directly led to two pieces of art, and he talked about them. I don't recall them off the top of my head, unfortunately, but it was a good conversation, and it's one of those things that, as a non-artist, as someone who, I've worked at Wizards for over a decade, and I still learn things every single day about how different groups and different departments work. Getting that better understanding of what the world guide is and how it's utilized is always fascinating for me. I'm gonna shift over to Alayna real quick and ask her, because I know, having been friends for a while and talked on various pieces, the work that she puts into creating her pieces. How much is there a piece of art that you've done that sticks out in your mind as being inspired or directly derived from a world guide in that sort of way?
Yeah, actually, last year's the Phyrexia lands that I did, I got to do this panorama, and the central piece of it is the plains, and it's this big creepy arch, and it's very inspired by a piece of art that's in the world guide that I remember just like looking through the world guide trying to get inspired because I had the 5 land assignments, and just seeing that concept art and being like, wow, that is so cool. And no, it's a bummer because, usually stuff that's in the style guide doesn't see, the light of day, doesn't get put on a card. So I retooled it and changed, how it, the shape of it. But that central arch is really what inspired the entire panorama.
Yeah. Was it,
That's-
go ahead, Leon, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So, Alayna, there's actually quite a chance that I was the one who did the concept art for that, because I was together with
Really?
Jose Vega responsible for most of the environment art in that set.
That's cool.
So
That's
might
so
be.
freaking cool.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that. Maybe it's a sketch that I did, but we can chat about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely have a screen grab of it. I'll send it to you on Discord or something and see if it's the same.
Cool.
Very cool. Magali, I want to also take a thing from Leon's comments about concept art versus normal art. I am not artistic. I do stick figures and I call it good. But I'm curious for you all, how do you know when a piece is done? Is it the deadline has arrived and that's the end point? Or is it, sometimes there is a point where you're like, I can't add anything to us? How does that sort of come to for you?
I don't know if it's the same for all artists. As far as I'm concerned, that's something I'm always having a hard time to define. I'm like, I'm an artist who tends to put a lot of details in their pieces. So it already takes me a lot of time. And sometimes, too much is not always better. So I'm really lucky because actually I got to say, I'm going to reveal a big secret now. I have an artist at home because my husband is an illustrator. Mm-hmm. So what he's bringing me is a fresh eye that sometimes I tend to lose because I work a lot and I tend to always, when I finish a project, I have to start another and so on and so on and so on. And sometimes you tend to, your mind is not as clear as it should be. And also he's the one helping me define when a piece is done.
Yeah.
And, and sometimes also, to see some details like, oh, maybe this head is a bit big or things like that, because that's not because we are experienced artists that we don't make that type of silly mistakes anymore. These mistakes always happen. It's a human leading the way, so
Yep.
human mistakes do exist. So yeah, I gotta say that I've got a really valuable help at home. So I've got a lot of admiration for artists who have to do that all by themselves. If they don't have someone at hand to take a look at the piece and say, okay, what do you think? Do you think it's good? And do you think it could be improved, or so on?
Right. Yeah. I'm curious also, does that attention to detail and the way that you approach these pieces of art, does that also shift? Because you've done a number of Planeswalker pieces over the years, but you also do other cards, creatures, lands. Do you have a different sort of approach when it comes to those different styles of card or different?
No.
No. Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, it's pretty much always the same. And sometimes it's funny when it comes to when players comment the illustrations, because quite a few times this happened. I made an illustration like it was just a common creature or whatever,
Right.
and people were going like, but it looks like a planeswalker. As far as I'm concerned, it just doesn't matter whether I'm receiving a commission for a planeswalker or like a common card. For me, the work is really, really the same. The attention to detail and to design and all is really always the same.
Yep. Same question to you, Leon. How do you know when a piece is done? As you said, you get the short pieces with the concept art versus the long form.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is something that I actually struggle with sometimes. Like, you just keep, sometimes I can just detail things for 3 days and I'm like, this doesn't change much, doesn't it? Or does it? But the thing is, with concept art, I am very reliant on my workflow. I have a very specific set of steps that I always take when approaching concept art. But the goal there is to inform or to inspire other artists. And with the cards, a very big chunk of the time that I spend on the cards actually detailing in the nitty gritty. So designing is only a small part. So I honestly don't know. I'm trying to get better at it. I finished 5 cards just now, and I was just like spending evenings like, when are they done? And I think they're finally done.
Okay.
I liked what Magali said about the rarity of some cards where you spend a ton of time on a card. It turns out to be a common. I had this thing happen to me with the Brothers War, which were the first cards of mine that were released. When Taylor Ingverson asked me, Leon, how many cards can you do? I said, I could do like 10 or 11. That was a big mistake. But when they were done and when the cards were getting spoiled, suddenly every card that got spoiled was a mythic rare. So I think 8 out of the 11 cards I did were all mythic rare. So there was like, especially since they were my first cards, that was super surprising. I was like, I want to get a comment. I want to be able to open one of my cards, right?
Yeah, I recall you did Cityscape Leveler, which was one of my favorite cards from the Brothers War, both gameplay wise and exactly. Here it is.
Got it right here.
Yeah. Also, I do play it in Commander, so I love. Thank you for that. We did have a question in chat that I thought was fun, and I'm gonna go to Alayna for it, given your having done multiple MagicCons. Someone asked in chat, how many pins do you actually go through over the course of a MagicCon?
A lot. You go through a lot. Bring a lot of pens, guys. I have. Let me see if I have I bring a bag like this. This is probably, I don't know, 50 Sharpies. And then it's not only just Sharpies. Yeah, I mean, like, sometimes Sharpies go bad really fast. So bring a lot of them. And then I also use a lot of these gold pens for shadow signing. And They look awesome, but they go bad fast. So like I probably bring about 30 of these. So just to be safe. And just so you guys know, like Leon, if you have some of these, after you fly with them, sometimes they explode from the pressure change. So be careful. Always test them first. I
Okay,
always
that's a-
bring my
I have
sketchbook to
5.
test pens on.
That's not
So
enough,
always
Leon.
test first.
Yes,
Yes, you need
I
more.
need to order
Bring
us
it.
more.
Bring a big bag.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, good. Another question, which is an evergreen question, and I'll throw the question out and then I'll vamp to give you all a couple minutes, is people just always want to hear what pieces of art is your favorite, or what is your current favorite? You know, what is a piece that sticks with you as one that you're happy with? And since Alayna was just discussing pins, we'll stay with you. Do you have a favorite of what you've done for Magic that's public so far?
Yeah, actually. So my favorite used to be Animal Sanctuary. I'm usually the type that when I finish a piece of art, I kind of instantly hate it and see all the flaws with it. And that's true for pretty much everything. But with Animal Sanctuary, I got to sneak in my cats and my dog in it. And then, so now I have to love it. My cats and dog are in it. And recently, there's a new Secret Lair Raining Cats and Dogs Commander deck, and I got to do all the lands. And there's a cat forest, a dog mountain, and a cats and dogs plains.
Mm-hmm.
And the cats and dogs plains is pretty much all the animals in there. I think there's like almost 20 different cats and dogs in there, and all but 3 or 4 are pets that I currently have or grew up with. So it's basically, my favorite picture ever, even though it's really flawed and there's a lot of things wrong with it, but it's got all the good boys and girls that I've known throughout my life.
How can you not love
means a
that?
lot to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Leon, do you have a favorite piece that we've talked about, or that we haven't talked about, I should say?
So like I said before, the first set that I worked on was the Brothers War, and that was super interesting to me because I was also on the concept push for that. So I did a lot of designing, and since I am an environment artist, I am not that proficient in drawing characters or creatures or whatever. I kind of jumped into, how do you say that? Like I took a leap of faith, so to say, because when I was commissioned with a bunch of these cards, I was like, I can't draw robots. That's gonna be interesting. But in the end, I think I pulled through. And like I said, the Cityscape Leveler is one of the one that saw the most play, so I kind of like it. But to design this one was actually the hardest one of the 10 cards I did during that set. So I was very surprised that this was the one that got really good. Another one I really like, I prepared it a bit, is this one, the Restless Anchorage.
Mhm.
Got released with Caverns of Ixalan.
Yep.
It was great because before I started working for Wizards of the Coast, I typically did a lot of these cityscapes. I designed a lot of architecture and cityscapes. And with this Restless Anchorage card, I was able to go back to those roots, so to say. So yeah, I like that one as well. I think that's it. Also, Mishra's Foundry was also very, very fun to do.
Awesome. Magali, what would you say? Do you have a favorite or a current favorite?
The words current favorite is good because it's really hard to choose because many cards have a story behind them when you work on them. There's always a story. But at the moment, what I would tend to answer is my Death Shadow from my artist series.
Mm-hmm.
First, because, the artist series is a really great project to work on when you are lucky enough to be able to do that, because it's so much freedom. It's like, it's a commission, but we are being told for the first time ever, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
And that is really such a great feeling. I'm really grateful I was able to do that. And the Death Shadow piece is very important for me because it corresponds to a very specific and peculiar moment of my life when I was working on it. It's like, like a love letter to a dear one I lost at that moment. And Wizard of the Coast writer Ari Zirolnik did such a great job with the text on the card. He created such a wonderful text to go with that piece. So yeah, that's the one, because it means a lot. So that's the one I would answer at the moment.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it's powerful, especially. I mean, hearing how Alayna was able to put those beloved pets. This one represents a moment for you. I'm sure for Leon, while we didn't discuss one, you've done pieces that have similar emotional resonance, and it's also powerful for fans that as I'm sure you all have heard over the years, talking to fans at MagicCons or other shows, what your art means to fans, what those characters coming to life means for fans, and that's one of the beautiful things about this game. I forget if it was Matt Cavada or who, 15 plus years ago, when we talked about the Vorthos mentality for fans, the ones who love the story, who love the art. The game could just be numbers and characters on a piece of cardboard, but it's so much richer having people like you all contributing to this game and bringing these things to life in such a wonderful way. You reminded me of a thing that I was going to say, and I forgot as I was rambling on about another thing. So I'll pull another question that I saw from chat, which was, you definitely don't have to dive into details if you don't want, but I know fans are always eager to know, will there be any traditional pieces that you all will be bringing to the show, whether it's originals or sketches or anything like that you'll have at your booths? We'll start with Alayna.
I have a couple pre-drawn artist proofs, but that would probably be about it. We were talking before we started streaming. I have about 100 artist proof sketches that I'm behind on for people already, so I don't have a whole lot of time to do much original work these days.
Makes sense. Leon, do you plan to bring any traditional stuff?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, but I'm still quite occupied with the concept art, my day-to-day job for Wizards. So if I have time left, I would love to do some artist proofs, especially for the Cityscape Leveler. I would love to do some traditional art on the backside of that. And maybe I'll bring some of the sketches I did on paper for the Brothers War. Maybe, yeah, we'll see.
We'll see, fair enough. Magali?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty much like Alayna. I really want to bring pre-drawn or pre-painted artist proofs. But aside from that,
fair enough. I think talking about the effort and time that goes into this, it's also important to recognize it's not obviously it's not free flowing from your pins onto the canvas. There are times where you hit artist's block, or you run out of creativity, or you just feel like you're not adding to these pieces, as you mentioned, Leon. How do you all work through that? What do you step away? Do you watch TV? Do you read books? What is your way of escaping and stepping away from art? Because I'm sure for many years art was your escape. So let's start with Magali, and we'll work back across again. Magali?
That's a really important question as far as being an artist is concerned. I gotta say, I've been doing that job for 17 years, and I've been a magic artist for like 12 years now. So of course you are going through lots of phases, and I did at some point in my career, I did hit a real big artist block. I gotta say, it was a really painful time, because it's really hard, to go through that while, trying to still work for your clients, not to be able to notice that there is something wrong, and so that was a really big effort. And I gotta say, and I'm not really ashamed to say that, but it took me 15 years to understand that maybe it was a good idea to take some rest. I got to say that for 15 years, I've been working 7 hours, 7 days a week,
Wow.
all days, never taking any type of vacation, never taking any type of weekend, never allowing myself to do that. And at some point I had to kind of reach a point of no return as far as my health was concerned, to understand that maybe the art process would get smoother if I allowed myself some rest, if I allowed my brain to rest at some point. But it's really not easy because, sometimes I tend to say that the fact that I am self-taught is guilty for that, is that for such a long time, I had the feeling that if I was not working, I was doing something wrong, and that maybe if I was taking some rest, I would be missing an opportunity, or maybe my clients would think that I am lazy if I was telling them, no, I'm not going to be working for that week because, I need to rest. And I was really afraid of what they would think. And I was afraid of not having a job anymore, when I would come back home. So
Right.
it's really, it's woo, it's not there is a lot of things going on in an artist's head sometimes, and it's really something I'm still learning, respecting myself a little and understanding that things are going much better when I
Right.
am rested, actually. That's right.
Important lessons to learn for all of us.
Yeah.
Leon, do you have a way that you unplug or reset when you're facing those sort of creative blocks?
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing is, the whole art industry it's quite competitive, and especially with AI being a thing now, it's very easy for artists to get scared or get overwhelmed. So for me, a way to unwind is I do sports a lot, and I do track and field or athletics. And it gives my life a lot of structure. So I know that I have to do that for 4 times a week, even if it rains or even if I'm not feeling well. So that really helps me unwind. I do have artist blocks, I think, but not so much in the whole concept art side of things, because I'm very reliant on a workflow that I've been using for so long now. So I know that even if I'm not feeling great, if I just repeat these steps, I will still have a bunch of images at the end of the day, even
Right.
if I'm not feeling well. For card art, it's a bit more difficult when there's a deadline, in a month, and I'm not feeling great. It's very easy to just, put work down, go play video games, and be bummed out for the rest of the day. So that's something to be conscious of, and I think that's the most difficult thing for me to do. So with concept art, I'm always motivated because I know there's a deadline at the end of the day or at the end of the week. And with cards, it's different. I don't think I had a full on art block yet, but there are months that I'm just not feeling great, or there are these things like in your personal life that it all comes at once, right? There's one thing that goes bad over there, then this happens, that happens, and sometimes it gets a bit overwhelming. But with time, it usually gets better. But it's very important to to just take breaks, and not be too hard on yourself. I also had these 7-day work weeks. I don't deal with them very well, so I tend to crash after them. But yeah, sports and there's a whole bunch of things that I could
Great.
do to unwind. Yeah.
Yeah. Alayna, how do you unwind?
So every day, my favorite thing to do is we have an elliptical, but I play a lot of JRPGs. And so I kind of combine those two things. And for an hour every day, I will play my Switch or PS5 while on the elliptical. And it gives me a way to like unwind and play, whatever video game I'm working on at the time. And I've been lucky. I haven't really had a really bad block yet. And I think I've just been really lucky with getting really fun assignments, which is something that's great with Magic. Like, I think we all love the IP so much that it's just really fun to work on it.
Right.
Absolutely.
So thanks to the art directors for giving me cool stuff. Somehow they know, like they just know what I'm going to have fun drawing. So
Good. I'm glad to hear it, and I'm glad to learn more about you guys. We're winding down. I do have a couple more questions I want to go through. One that I think is interesting, and I wanted to put a slight twist on a question that I'm sure many of you have gotten, if not all of you have gotten, about advice to new artists. Rather than being, what would you tell the aspiring artist about who wants to be a Magic artist? In that same vein of dealing with blocks, there was just this on, I think yesterday or the day before on X, on Twitter, posting of artists showing, here's where I started to, I had to go through X, I had to go through this to get to where I am now. What advice or what insights can you give to young aspiring artists who are, looking at their art and going, well, I'm nowhere near as good as any of you or any Magic artist? How do they move forward? Does anyone have thoughts on an answer for that before I just put any of you on the spot?
Well, maybe I do.
Okay. Start us off, Leon.
Okay, so if I'm looking at my own process when I started, doing art, I basically started creating because I didn't feel great when I was 18. I didn't know what to do. I thought I wanted to have a sports career. It horribly failed, of course. And then I was like, what am I gonna do now? And I just started picking up this 3D software, and I just kept noodling with it. It felt like playing with Legos, which is great. And I just kept doing that, but the thing is that I didn't have a clear goal in mind. I wasn't like, I want to work in this industry, I want to work at that company. I was just doing it because I loved doing it and because it was a lot of fun. And I think that's the most important thing I could say from my perspective, is just have fun, do what you love to do, and don't try to get these crazy goals that will make you feel down a lot. Like, I want to work there, and if I'm not able to work there, then my life has failed. Like, don't be like that. Just draw because you love to draw. That's the most important thing. And I think when you have fun with your work, people will see it. No matter if you're drawing, baby unicorns, or if you're drawing gigantic castles. For me, I had a very, very one-track mind, a very tunnel vision approach to it, because I only like doing environments. And by being in such a niche corner of the industry, I was able to stand out amongst the crowd, and then land myself a job. But that's not for everyone. Some people just like to draw everything. I only like to draw spaceships and castles. That's just me. But yeah, like I said, having fun is the most important thing, and those goals will come later.
No, that's great. Absolutely. Alayna or Magali, you have thoughts you want to add?
I would tend to think that at the moment, maybe social networks don't always have a good impact on young artists' mind, because it's a place where you can always compare yourself to so many people. It doesn't make any sense, because there's always been lots of artists around. It's like that. Yeah. People create. It's been like that even before social networks even existed.
Right.
But before that, we couldn't see them all the time. We couldn't compare ourselves to others all the time. And what I'm always trying to say whenever I'm meeting people who want to be artists, young people or not that young people for that matter, is to step aside and not spend so much time looking at what others people do and trying to find their own voice, their own personality. Don't try to be like this artist, and don't try to don't go hunting for the audience approval, and don't try to give the audience what you think is gonna work. Find your own voice, even if it's a really peculiar one, especially if it's a really peculiar one. That's gonna make a big difference, and you will feel so much better doing your art. An artist cannot go really far for very long if they are not listening to what they have here, and if they always trying to struggle to be someone else. So yeah, do what you like the way you like it, and there will be a place for you.
Absolutely. Great. Alayna, anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah, that was great points, guys. One other thing is, like, I always knew I wanted to work on Magic since I started playing Magic right out of high school. And what I always did is I would take my portfolio to Gen Con and hope to run into a Wizards art director. And at MagicCon Chicago, they're actually doing portfolio reviews, which, if you're an aspiring artist, hopefully you've signed up, because it's like, that's so invaluable. Like, getting an art director to look at your portfolio and give you feedback is huge. And if you do that, don't be discouraged. I went to Gen Con and talked to her for 8 years before I finally got work for Magic. I would come back the next year, like, with a whole new portfolio, like, I'd filled up with all brand new arts. And the art director would go through it and give me notes and tell me to, what to work on. And, then I'd spend that whole next year trying to follow what they said. And, like, my big problem was I didn't do enough detail at the time, which is kind of funny because that's all I ever want to do these days.
Right.
But if you want to get into doing magic art and you're going to be at Chicago, bring your portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice from all. This has been such a treat. I have one final question for you all. It's an easy one. There is a culinary delicacy in Chicago that I'm curious who's going to partake in. Have any of you thought about having a Chicago deep dish pizza once you are at MagicCon? It is a special thing, I'll tell you that.
How special is it?
Oh,
It's called pizza, but it's pizza in the sense that it's on dough and it has the ingredients of pizza, but it's much closer to, like, almost a lasagna or something else. It's a much thicker.
Like a cake.
It's like a cake, yeah. So something for you all to
a
consider.
cheesy, greasy, delicious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, as long as it's food, I'm okay with everything, So.
It does
And
qualify.
there's cheese on it.
Yep. All right, great. Well, we'll put you all down. We'll find out
Yeah.
some deep dish for you.
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you all so much for coming on.
Thank
I'm gonna wrap up real quick, but it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you for making the time. Thank you for all the contributions that you have done and will continue to do for the wonderful game that we love, Magic.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, our pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Our pleasure.
See you in a couple weeks.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
Looking forward to seeing you all in Chicago.
Very exciting.
We'll move to the end step and wrap up the show. As we've been talking about, obviously the artists, those three will be three of the artists and the art of magic at MagicCon Chicago. MagicCon Chicago is taking place in just 2.5 weeks, February 23rd through 25th. And it is going to feature not just art of magic, not just any specific sort of thing. It's also going to have a cosplay contest, as we always do. It has a 75,000 standard open event. We'll have Pro Tour Murders at Karloff Manor taking place there, which will feature Pioneer Constructed and MKM Limited, streamed here on the Magic Twitch channel all 3 days. There will be preview panels. One is our overall preview panel. There will also, on that Friday, be a Fallout preview panel, because we will be in the middle of previews for our Fallout Universes Beyond release. There's, of course, Game Nights Live, we will be doing a new family track for families attending who are looking for ways to entertain their younger members, and so much more. So much awesome stuff. You can still get tickets. Go to mcchicago.mtgfestivals.com and learn more about that. But that's not the only MagicCon this year. That is the first of 3. Second one will be in Amsterdam, home of Leon Tukker, who we were just speaking with. That'll be June 28th through 30th. Tickets for that are on sale. In fact, they went on sale last week, and you have less than 2 days to buy your badges for that show and take advantage of the early bird pricing if you want to do that. The tickets will still be available after that point, but you'll just no longer be able to get the early bird pricing on those badges. And rounding out the year in October will be Las Vegas, again, taking place October 25th through 27th. Be our last MagicCon of the year, play host to the World Championship, and more. So a lot of exciting stuff at the MagicCons. If you want to learn more, there is PlayMTG on Twitter/X. And also this year we launched an Instagram account for MagicCons and other events, MTG Festivals, at MTG Festivals on Instagram. Give that a follow, stay up to date. We're having a lot of fun with that account. We gave a good insight look or a behind-the-scenes concept piece of one of the parts coming up for Chicago. And we're looking to do more of that. We're also featuring the artists who will be at MagicCon Chicago on its stories, and we'll have a reel go up on Instagram showing all of the artists who will be there. What else did I want to say on the outro? As I said earlier, once again, thanks to Alayna, Leon, and Magali for making the time to spend with us and spend with you. Thanks to you, the viewers, for watching and asking questions. I know there were some I didn't get to. I was trying to keep a flow going, and some of them I couldn't find a way to work in, but thank you all the same. Thanks to Sean in the booth, and as of now, Blake will be back next week, but we'll see. I might steal the gig from him. We'll see. And that's it. Go and enjoy Murders at Karlov Manor on Arena or at your local game store this Friday, and have a great week, and I'll see some of you in Chicago. Thanks. Take care.